I use EMDR, which helps to bring down the intensity of feelings left behind from something. Not
So what is EMDR?
Okay, so EMDR is eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So what it means is like
A lot of big words.
it's a lot of words. Yeah. Or everyone always looks at me and goes, "Okay, what does that mean?"
Yeah.
So it means like has to do with rapid eye movement. So when you go to sleep at night and your eyes move back and forth, we reprocess what's happened during the day. But a lot of people have gone through trauma don't really sleep very well. So they also don't get into that state. So when they say go to bed and sleep on it and tomorrow you'll be better. The idea came from Francine Shapiro, and she was walking in New York one day and noticed that when she was looking back and forth, that it was from one side of the road to the other, that things were able to calm down for her or bring down what she was upset about. So that's where she started EMDR. So it has to do with the bilateral movement of one side of your body to the other, either with the eye movement or tapping. I use buzzers too. But the idea is one part of your brain to the other part of the brain to keep going back and forth. So you're able to process.
Retrains the brain?
Yes.
You're saying process. So it retrains the brain and it lessens the intensity of the pain?
It lessens the intensity of the pain. It actually brings the image further back in your mind. So if you have something that's really intense right now, it's going to be a very close and vivid. And while we're doing EMDR, so we're talking about it, I'm asking you to figure out what's the feeling that's left behind. So if I'm feeling betrayed or I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, that's the thing we want to go back to and find out where that came from. Either we know it's a specific spot or it's something that we're not exactly sure, but your mind will take you there. And so the idea is you're also listening to either the buzzers back and forth or the movement of your eyes following my fingers. But your brain can't do both. So it's trying to figure out which one am I going to focus on. So it starts to break down that stuck point of I'm living in this vivid moment as if I was reliving it all over again. So
Is that part of what keeps us stuck in
yes.
the beginnings of grief, that where the pain is so bad, the sorrow is so horrible, you can't live?
Exactly. Right. So if you're feeling like it happened yesterday, and also if it's something that happened when you're young, most of the time you're still living in that same stage of life. So reacting to it. Right. So that, let's say it happened when you were 12, you're still acting like you're 12. You're mature wise. Everything else has gone forward, but that maturity level or that processing skill that you should have learned at that age is stuck there. So you're not really moving on. And that's why a lot of adults will act a certain kind of way.
Act out
For sure.
kind of way.
Right. We love to say that kids are the ones that are acting out, but there's a lot of adults acting.
Oh, I know some.
Yes, I do too. I've been married to a couple. Yes,
I've been married to a couple.
I've got married to a couple. Right. So
what a therapist says that a very few times.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, exactly.
No, we don't hear more about that.
Yeah, we definitely will. But the idea is we got to get out of that, and we just keep talking about it doesn't necessarily take it away. So it's not a normal talk therapy.
So I don't know if you want to do this, but
sure,
I just want to demonstrate it in a way, if we could.
Okay.
So like in the last interview I was in, I was kind of shocked because I feel like I've worked through so much of my grief with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And the person I was interviewing said, well, do you ever play music that used to remind you, used to have with him together? And it really took me aback. And I said, it's 4.5 years later, I still can't play music that we shared.
Right.
Is that something you would do EMDR on?
Absolutely.
Do it.
Okay. Okay, so I don't have my buzzer, so we'll do that.
Okay.
Eye movement.
Let's just show our audience what EMDR is and see if I'm a good candidate.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to imagine what you feel like when you hear that music.
Oh, so sad. So just mad and sad and awful.
Mad and sad and awful. Okay, so I want you to imagine feeling what it's that mad, sad. I want you to close your eyes just for a second, and I want you to notice what it feels like. What do you notice in your body? What you notice, just what thoughts come up.
Okay.
Images. Okay.
What comes up is him or him in the house playing music. It feels takes me all the way back 4.5 years, like I haven't done any work. I just want to sort of fold in on myself.
Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to just notice that image, and you're going to go ahead and follow my fingers.
Okay.
Okay. What are you noticing now?
I was thinking of him laughing.
Okay. All right. Is that an image you want to keep?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and just for a shortened version, I want you to go ahead and notice that feeling, those memories, the image of him laughing.
Yeah. I didn't know any rock music when we got married. It was started dating. It was a classical musician, and I just lived in a tunnel. And one of the first dates we went on, he started playing Fleetwood Mac. And he had the best time in the car. It was his favorite band, and he had the best time in the car, just telling me everything about all the artists and what they were good at, what they played, and Stevie Nicks and all that kind of thing. And so instead of me being bent over and sad in the kitchen, that immediately took me to laughing in the car.
Okay, good. All right. So I want you to notice that and go ahead and follow my fingers. Okay. What are you noticing now?
So, he would want to leave me with that music.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I noticed that sadness came up. So we're going to go back to that.
But in a good way.
In a good way. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll go back to the part that he wants to leave you with that. So when you think of him and you think of that piece that you want to be close to him and that have that memory of laughter and he shared this with you, is that something you want to continue to remember?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when I bring up the idea of I can have good memories and them not be sad, is that true?
It is true.
Okay. All right, go ahead and follow my fingers. Okay. So that's the one we'll stay with, right? Is that I can have good memories.
Yeah. They don't have to be sad.
Exactly.
All right, so you just rewired my brain.
Yes, I did.
So we'll check in on that the next time.
Okay. Okay.
EMDR.
The EMDR. So you got a very shortened version, but being able to take it directly from something that was a really sad memory for you to something that reminded you that these are great memories and that we don't have to.
Positioned it really fast. It's amazing doing that, just doing your fingers like that and just letting your mind go. Mm-hmm. How the mind,
right. And
how does that happen?
Well, because it's going back and forth from one side of the brain to the other, right? Because we deal with a lot of anxiety on one side and a lot of depression on the other side. So it's allowing your mind to say, oh, this is not one or the other. It could be something else. So allowing for your mind to go through that for a second. And if we had continued on the sadness side, I probably would have pulled out a lot of other stuff, because the way the memory works is like, you ever put cords in a drawer and went to go pull one out and the rest of them all come with it. That's how the memory is stored. So they're not compartmentalized like we think they are. They're just kind of a jumble. And so one memory will bring another memory out. And a lot of times people will say, I have no idea how we got to that. So this we just stayed on that one thing because we didn't go very far with it. But the idea was to switch it, right? So that way, that's how grief gets resolved with EMDR, is by saying, okay, we don't have to stay in the sadness part. There was so much. That's why we're sad, because we missed the good things. And so now we're on to remembering the good things, and that's doesn't have to be bad.
So when somebody comes to you and they're not admitting grief, but they have other signs, what are the other signs that let you know they're grieving something?
Well, there's a lot of anger, especially men. That's their number one emotion, is to say, because it's acceptable for them. It's acceptable to say that I'm angry that this person is gone, or I'm angry. Sadness has not been an emotion that's been acceptable for boys or men. Shut up and, I'll give you something to cry about, So the idea is that a lot of anger about not necessarily that person is gone or that event is gone, but they just can't figure out why they're so angry all the time. And so that's a lot of times we figure out where that anger comes from just by let's just go through, what does anger mean? When you think about being angry, close your eyes and notice what that feels like, and your mind will go to places. And then we just keep going with the EMDR.
I've heard it said that anger is a secondary emotion. It's not a primary emotion. So
It's
even though we're expressing anger, it's connecting to pain or fear, hurt,
jealousy, it's the acceptable version of those. Nobody wants to say that they're jealous about something, so it's easier to say they're angry. But they all are a root of each other. When somebody's hurt, that a lot of times that's how it comes out in their explosive anger, or their get away from me, or isolating. But they all have that same explosive nature, which we consider, people will easily say anger because of that.
We were just doing an interview. I was just doing an interview with a woman who just tremendous abuse in her family toward her mother and toward her. And the thing that kept coming up in her interview over and over and over again was, she said, I'm just so angry. Or I was so angry as a child. I was so angry. I'm still angry. And I couldn't figure out. And she acts in life like truly one of the most joyful people you want to be around. She does not show
that anger, right?
But I wondered how she got from all that anger to this place she lives in a fairly healthy way now, where she's pretty peaceful. She's pretty joyful.
Right.
I wonder what that journey was.
Well, and I wonder as well, but I think a lot of people are able to separate those pieces after a while, that I'm no longer going to take that with me. That could have been through a lot of therapy, or just recognizing that the more I put focus on anger, the more it's going to take over. So trying to find a different solution of changing the way you think, changing it to a positive statement versus, I just can't keep living this way.
So why did you go into trauma therapy?
Completely on accident.
Really?
Well, I worked with the mental health court, I don't know, probably 10 years ago now. And I noticed there was so many people that were mandated to come to me. And that's never a good way to start a session. Lady, I have to be here. So I noticed that so many of these people were coming in with major issues, what I would definitely call your normal big T trauma of like police officers who got caught doing stuff, and all the trauma that they would go through. So I decided I got to do something about this, because I felt like a very ineffective therapist. So I needed something else.
That.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's when I was really in what's the word?
Imposter syndrome.
Thank you.
That happens all the time.
I definitely felt like an imposter. And so once somebody told me about the training, I'm like, okay, I have to go do this. And it was the first training in the 24 years I've been doing this that actually I walked out saying, oh, I could do this.
Oh, wow.
This is because they make you work on your own stuff.
I was going to say,
yeah.
I'm assuming, just the little bit I know of you, that you probably have had EMDR therapy for yourself.
Yes. I mean, it was part of the training, and I kept saying, I don't have anything. It's no big deal, And then by the time I left, when we were doing, I started crying, and I was like, no, that's not me. It's not me. But I realized, wow, there was stuff that I needed to work through, and I saw firsthand how it felt, because we had to be an observer, and we had to be the therapist, and then we had to be a client. So being in all those three positions, seeing it really gave me a perspective that I don't think I could have had otherwise, to be sitting in front of a client and doing it.
So from that point forward, you've used EMDR in your therapy.
I use it almost solely. And, I do use cognitive behavioral, which is the basis of pretty much any therapy, of being able to change the way you think about things. The mind is extremely powerful, and what we can change in our thoughts, and our thoughts have so much to do with how our physical body reacts to things. So, but I use the two together. So, EMDR is a script-based therapy, and I'm not a script-based person. So I do kind of do things a little bit outside the box, and kind of go with what I feel is going to work best for that person.